r/AskReddit. What do you remember hating the most being a child? When you went to a family friend's house and you were playing with their children and then your parents said it's time to go, so you'd go and stand by them, but then the adults would remain talking for another half an hour, but you couldn't go play with the kids because you were about to go, so you had to listen to adult talk whilst staring at the coffee table. I remember the absolute worst one was when I stayed overnight at my friend's house for his birthday and we were watching this new Pokemon series he had gotten for his birthday. Then my mum came and picked me up half an hour early and I had to sit in my friend's sister's room, listening to mine and his mum talk about their childhood and ghost stories for an hour while my friend watched Pokemon in the living room. Worse when you do end up sneaking out under them to go play again. When they spot you, they tell you to come back and they still aren't ready to go, or your siblings is doing this when we are ready to go. And then as soon as they are ready to leave it's, I've been waiting for half an hour. Being talked down to, or people laughing at me when I was telling them something serious. I broke my arm in the first grade playing tag. I slipped and fell into a banister. Went to push myself back up and couldn't put pressure on my arm. I remember it clear as day. The teacher on duty wouldn't have it and claimed I got ran over on a tricycle. Even despite the other kids I was playing with tell her the same thing I did. To this day, more than 20 years later, I still get talked down to about it. That's bizarre. Even if the teacher didn't believe you for some reason, why suggest a different scenario? When I was in 6th grade, someone who was not our teacher came into the room to administer a standardized test and watched as we filled them out. My first name can be a nickname for a longer name, such as Bobby instead of Robert, although I'm female, but my name is not at all unusual. The teacher told me I had to use my full name. I told her that was my full name, but she argued and said it was a nickname. Lady, I'm in 6th grade. Do you think I don't know my full name? She had to get my regular teacher to confirm. False accusations, but when you try to defend yourself you get told to shut up, or even worse, you get punished further. I'm an adult and you are a child. How could I be wrong at all? I remember this so much, so frustrating. I still get unreasonably mad when I'm falsely accused of anything because of the built-up trauma of having to endure so much of that in my youth. If I got lucky, she'd also throw hard objects at me or slap the daylight out of me. Living in a house with just one bathroom and so many people. Seemed like someone was always using the toilet or the shower when others needed use of the room. That's why you just go use whatever is available at the same time. I did this. I was the only girl in my siblings. We seemed to have a trust in each other not to peek when one of us was showering. To this day, all but my dad still leaves the door unlocked when we shower, just so anyone who needs to wash their hands or use the mirror can. For me, always just made sure my eyes was open and ready to spray anyone who decided to open the curtains of the bathtub or glass door to the shower box. I think all the kids did this. I'm surprised you weren't the one that locked the door, considering you're the only girl. Not getting explanations for things I asked about. My parents and extended family were good-hearted people, but none of them were very intellectually minded, so when I had questions about how things in the world were supposed to work or operate, the answers were frequently unsatisfying, ranging somewhere between "because it just does" to "I don't know." And "I don't know" was sadly never followed up with "but let's find out." I have of course overcompensated with my own children on this to a fault. As my eldest son said, "I'm afraid to ask you what time it is, because then you'll want to teach me how to build a clock." This right here. I was so inquisitive, and having no access to answers infuriated me. I remember getting really pissed at my mom once. After asking a series of questions and getting only "I don't know" in response, I finally sighed and said, "Wow. You don't know anything." Needless to say, that was an ass whooping I did not soon forget, and it taught me to stop asking questions. Then a few years later we got Google. that my feelings didn't matter. If I was feeling anything other than happy, I had to get over it. If I was crying, I was ordered to stop or get something worth crying over. I hate as an adult now, seeing other adults ask a kid what is wrong, kid opens up, and then the kid gets made fun of for it being a stupid reason. Then poor kid gets drilled about how they don't know what a hard life is, they are dramatic, etc. Oh, you have an important test? Just wait until you're an adult and you're faced with real problems. As it turns out, I love being an adult and being free of tests, exams, homework, coursework, revision and everything else to do with school. I still have nightmares from time to time where I suddenly realize I have an exam I haven't studied for, and waking up and realizing those days are over is always a huge relief. The never-ending lectures about how all this work needs to be done, and that our futures are resting on it was so damn stressful. Screw those never-ending tests. Being 4 feet 3 inches with the voice of a tuber. This made my day. The cruelty of other kids. Sorry you experienced it as well. It got better for me. Hopefully for you too. One of the craziest realizations I had was when I talked to my friend's mom about the bullying I was going through. She told me that she grew up with the parents of every single child who was saying and doing mean things to me. She said that their parents were never bright in school, they were lazy, and just not good people in general. She said it wasn't surprising to her that their kids grew up to be little versions of their parents. She said they were just a product of their environment. Ever since she told me that, I felt sad for them every time they bullied me, sad that their parents never provided them with the opportunity to be better. Family gatherings. Had a large extended family as an Indian and there were gatherings and functions almost every week. Coming of age, housewarming, marriage, first birthdays called for gatherings between 100 to 2,000 people. You had to dress up and meet people that apparently cleaned your snot as a baby expecting you to remember that they did so. It was horrid. Kinda miss it now though. Yeah, I miss gatherings too, and it's sad to me to realize that's a time I can never return to. There was something about seeing our house bustling with older people you don't know, all chatting, eating, and laughing in small groups throughout. You might not know them and are nervous when they first arrive, but they are family friends, so you eventually trust them. Their young kids would be playing with toys and spinning each other with an office chair. Then the older kids would be playing upstairs on the TV because one of them brought a PS1. I never knew it as a kid, but I enjoyed the company of strangers to me. Worst part of it was they started to filter out. The house slowly becomes more quiet, and you try looking for a stranger or older kid that was kind to you, but they have already left. My dad stopped doing those gatherings when I was around 12. People making fun of me, grown up included. This is a big one for me too. It seems like the previous generation of adults loved to tease and make fun of us. I think maybe they thought we would grow up with thick skin. It doesn't work. Along that same vein, when adults would tickle and wrestle with me until I felt scared and overwhelmed was probably my most hated thing about being a kid. I had an uncle that would pinch my nose so hard it would make my eyes water. I hated it so much. Some adults are so immature. What I remember most was some adults not treating me like a human being just because I was a child. I try so hard with my own kids to step back and treat them as fellow humans and not just children. A 4-year-old needs their own space and gets frustrated and gets angry in exactly the same way I do. They just don't have the vocabulary and awareness to express it. My job is to help them express it, validate it and teach them how to deal with it. Not just to tell them to stop whining. I wish I had a parent like you growing up. Being made to eat foods that I couldn't stomach, or which were in amounts that were too much for me to handle. You can't leave the table until you finish everything on your plate. I hated wasting food, but I developed clever ways of sneaking unwanted food away and disposing of it without a trace. Thankfully my parents didn't pull the "there are starving people in Africa" routine, because my answer would have been, "so give it to them." I second this. I remember vomiting after being made to eat coleslaw by my father, and I still can't stomach it. Also, whenever I would visit my grandmother, she insisted I drink a glass of milk with every meal, and she made me sit at the table until I drank it all. I couldn't stand it, and to this day I hate milk, although some milk products are okay. Being told no without any explanation. That's just going to make me do it to find out myself. Why? Because. Frenzy mode activated. The lack of freedom. I wasn't allowed to do a lot of things that I wanted to. I relate to this, but my lack of freedom wasn't because my parents had a lot of strict rules or anything. It was just that we lived in the middle of butt nowhere, and my mom hated driving, so I felt guilty asking her to take me places. My mother stigmatizing me for loving pink, playing the flute, wanting to be a nurse, etc. Going by your username, I assume you are living your best life wearing pink nurse uniforms and playing flute in your spare time. If so, that's lovely. Imagine being in hospital and Jeff the pink uniformed nurse waltzes in playing the flute. If that ain't gonna make you better, nothing will. Having to lie to stay out of trouble. If you tell the truth, I won't get mad. Sure thing, mom. Here's what happened. Are you ducking kidding me? What the actual duck possessed you to decide that that was a good idea? Go to your room. Don't come out until tomorrow. I don't give a damn, it's 9 in the morning. I don't want to see you for the rest of the day.